Hey everyone, welcome back to Vagabond HealthQuarters, where we focus on educating and empowering you to achieve your health and wellness goals. So today it's going to be all about tracking calories. It's at least the top 5 questions I get asked is how to track calories. So today we're going to be talking all about tracking calories, but how to do so successfully and efficiently so you're not wasting a bunch of time each time you sit down to eat some food. So I like to be very clear. I do have what I would consider a love-hate relationship with tracking calories. The hate stems from the fact that it creates a lot of undue, unnecessary stress in and around times of eating, but also it can create a very hyper focus on food and numbers that can unfortunately lead to some eating disorder-ish behaviors again around that time of eating food. So do know that there are definitely some just unnecessary risk or complications when tracking calories. But when we use it as a tool and do so appropriately, it can be incredibly educational and empowering to help you better understand the caloric density of foods that you're putting in your body, help you spot dietary weaknesses from your day-to-day dietary behaviors, and can really help drive the needle for you to make meaningful progress with whatever your goals are, be it weight loss, body weight maintenance, or to gain weight. So again, just understand it is a tool, and when you use so appropriately, it can be very empowering. So let's dive in and cover the basics. Okay, so the number one thing we have to talk about right out the gate is your resting metabolic rate. This is super important anytime you're going to be looking to have success, again, with weight loss, weight maintenance, or weight gain. So your resting metabolic rate, referred to as your RMR, is your base caloric need for the day if you were just Netflix and chill on the couch all day. From there, we multiply that number by what we refer to as an activity factor. And that just takes into account, again, your day-to-day activity. How do you work out? Do you have a laborious job? Do you take the dogs for a walk every day? We kind of work all of that in to get a good estimation of the total amount of calories you're expending on the day-to-day basis. And then we work backwards from there to determine, again, if you need to create a deficit for weight loss, if that's the number to keep maintenance, or do we need to add some number to that to make sure you're gaining weight appropriately. And so to figure out your resting metabolic rate, you really have two options. You can use the built-in programs that are in the apps that rely on formulas like Mifflin St. Jeor or the Harris-Benedict equation, and those things work great. Generally speaking, they'll get you within a 5 to 10% margin of what your true resting metabolic rate is. But understand there are always outliers, and it can always be best to get what we refer to as indirect calorimetry performed. And what this is essentially you're going to wake up, be fasted, you're going to go to whatever place does it, and you lay down on a table, they put a hood over your head, and they're going to measure the amount of oxygen you breathe in and carbon dioxide that you breathe off. And measuring that O2 and CO2 exchange is how we determine exactly how many calories you need at rest. Okay, and most places, this test is pretty accessible depending on where you live at in the country. You can expect to spend anywhere from $100 to $200, with I think the average price that I see is around $150. Test is super simple, takes like 15-20 minutes depending on where you go, and it can give you some very actionable, complete, perfect data to really understand that base level of calories or your RMR. And so that we have to understand right out the gate because that will drive success. Once you have that number and we can compound by your activity factor, we start figuring out your total caloric need. So if you're going to rely on the app, they're going to give you some blanket macro numbers to follow. You can roll with that and see how you do, or you can take your own approach and start manipulating your own macronutrient profile. So I am very much a fan of total caloric intake being 35% by way of protein, 35% from carbohydrates, and that last remaining 30% from fat. Again, this will change based on your own personal lifestyle, your activity factor, and your goals, and everything else in between. But that's typically, in my opinion, a good place to start, most especially for weight loss. So the other things we have to address are having a plan, how to streamline and efficiently track, and then tying this whole picture together. So let's get to it. Okay, guys, next we need to make a plan. We've all been guilty of going to the grocery store. We buy a bunch of food with the intention to get healthier, lose some weight, maybe just protect our budget. But we didn't have a plan in place of what we were actually making. And so the food ends up just kind of sitting in the fridge and then spoiling. And this creates a bunch of problems, from wasted food, wasted money, wasted time, Maybe even it demoralizes you because you don't know what you're doing and you feel like you're just wasting all of your time and your money. And then it's harder to kind of embrace that change you've been trying to make. So this is where it is important to embrace the principle KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. What I mean by that is do not make overly complicated meal prep. Don't get super intricate recipes. Get very basic things, ideally things that can be cooked all together or in similar fashion for efficiency in the kitchen. Okay? And so once you do that, the plan is you take those recipes that you've decided upon, you create a grocery list, you go to the grocery store, purchase the food, bring it home, and then execute your meal prep. Now it is in your preference of how you execute that meal prep. I have clients that prep everything and grocery shop all in the same day. That's actually what we do in our house, but again, it matters what fits in your life. Some people go grocery shopping Saturday, prep on Sunday, or however you divide it up. I even have some clients that do little mini meal preps to get them through to the week so they don't have to invest as much time up front to carry them through for the entire week. And what I mean is they might grocery shop and prep on Sunday night, but it's a mini prep. That mini prep carries them through to say Tuesday or Wednesday. And then that Tuesday or Wednesday night, they're cooking again in bulk to maybe carry them through to the end of the week. Now, it's important not to neglect the weekend as well. And so what some people do is make their meals Monday through Saturday, and that might be where that little mini meal prep comes in. But basically, you would have the same breakfast Monday through Saturday. That can be something you wake up and cook fresh every day, or maybe you prep a few overnight, again, whatever works for you. And then you would say you have lunch one on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and dinner one on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then lunch two would be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and then lunch or dinner two would be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then on Sunday, that gives you some capability to make new, fresh foods. Again, there's a million ways to skin this cat, if you will, but ultimately what matters is what are you gonna do, what are you gonna be efficient at, and how are you gonna find success? Because I can tell you a million different ways to do it, but again, it matters what you're gonna do. So to summarize, choose your recipes ahead of time, keep it simple. Use those recipes to create a grocery list. From that grocery list, you go shopping, you bring the food home, and then you figure out when and how you're gonna prepare it. Guys, just a little quick visual into some of my meal prep methodology. So some things we like to do is try to roast or bake as many things together as we can. So you can, roast Brussels sprouts and asparagus, bake some chicken, bake some fish, all in the oven at the same time. And that can take care of multiple vegetables and proteins all in one unit. And then other things you can steam broccoli, saute some veggies, and then throw some rice or beans or potatoes or something in an Instapot, and basically all of your meal prep can be getting cooked at the exact same time. So keep it simple, stupid. Cooking some rockfish for meal prep this week. Don't be afraid of seasonings. I'm using some Kinder's garlic and herb on the fish this week with a little bit of black pepper. And just like that, my breakfast is made. We're about to have a protein of fish, some broccoli, and then it's Thanksgiving week, so we've got some turkey and other vegetables left over in the fridge, but I just wanted to give a short demonstration on how easy this all executes. All right, oven's ready. Fish looks pretty tasty. Okay, kind of similar premise. We made our oatmeal bowl while we were prepping everything. Now let's had some time to cool. I'm just going to transfer this over. And so now I have breakfast and my lunch prepared for the workday. And all I need to do is grab a few snacks, which tomorrow for me will be an apple and a protein shake and some cashews. Okay, so the food is done. Broccoli is finished being steamed. And the fish just went off. Oh, yes. That looks marvelous, don't you think? Looks pretty good. So we just let this stuff cool down, pack it up, and we put it away. Okay, guys. So when we're weighing out our food, there are some special considerations that you must understand and fully acknowledge. Okay. And the number one thing, first and foremost, that I have to say is whenever you're weighing animal proteins, you should always be weighing the cooked protein. Please do not ever weigh your raw proteins and then log that you're eating, 6 ounces of steak or chicken before it's cooked. Most animal meats lose between 20 and 30% of their volume by weight during the cooking process, dependent on what you're cooking and how it's being cooked, how long it's being cooked, so on and so forth. But theoretically, 6 ounce chicken breast that's raw will basically cook down to about a 4.5 ounce chicken breast, again, depending on how you cook it. So not only you're not getting a true value of how much you're actually eating and could unintentionally undereat, the bigger concern here, though, is we want to mitigate and minimize all food safety concerns. So if you're going to be putting cooked food on that scale on a Tupperware or however you're measuring it, we don't want to also have had raw meat on that scale. So just minimize the risk for food safety. We don't need cross contamination. We just don't need to potentially get ourselves sick or potentially undereat because you weighed a raw product versus a cooked product. The other thing you need to understand is when you're cooking any kind of grains or starches, they tend to double in size. For instance, if you do a quarter cup of oatmeal, it will become a half cup of cooked oatmeal. Or if you do a half cup of raw rice and you cook it, it will generally yield about a cup of cooked rice. On the flip side of that, with vegetables, depending on how you're cooking them, they can reduce in size. The easiest example for this is spinach, right? If you're cooking a bunch of spinach, it wilts down. You can take a whole big container of spinach and cook it down to basically fitting in your hand. This is why I'm a fan of weighing out your vegetables versus just using measuring cups, but you don't necessarily need to get to that level of detail. It's just my personal preference. So again, to reiterate the importance of these things is your animal meats need to be cooked weight, okay? Understand that when you're prepping food, grains, again, like rices, oatmeals, lentils, quinoa, what have you, will generally double in size from what they're being cooked. And vegetables can reduce in size or they become soft so more volume can fit into a measuring cup. And that's why sometimes I think it's just beneficial to weigh them versus relying on measuring cups.
So meal prep, right? Once you're done with the prep, you want to actually portion out your food. So I like to just take my Tupperware that I'm going to be using for lunch. I'll zero the scale. And I start with my proteins. Remember, always cook protein first. So we're going to do some chicken breast left over, or turkey breast left over from Thanksgiving. So I want 5 ounces of turkey. Take a little dark meat too, so it's not so dry. Boom, boom. 510. If you want to get super specific, you can just start breaking stuff off. 5 ounces. We're good there. And I know I want about 100 grams of roasted Brussels sprouts. So we're going to unit over 2 grams, hit 0. $100 grams, just like that. And because it's Thanksgiving, we've got some leftover mashed potatoes. And I want about 70 grams of potatoes. We got about 100 grams there. So I'm going to swap out that chunk with this. We're right there. And just like that, meal prep is done. Turn my scale off. Close this up. Throw it in the fridge. And we're all done.
So let's go ahead and get to the fun part where we're actually tracking some calories. And then this is the area I'm going to show you how we're going to make this so much more streamlined and time efficient that we're going to eliminate the vast majority of the stress, the headache, the nuance, and the time consumption that is generally associated with this idea of tracking calories. So again, just a reminder, this isn't supposed to be a permanent lifestyle. This is supposed to be utilized as a tool, maybe for certain times like a competition, getting ready to go to the beach on vacation, just trying to dial in your nutrition, see where you've been slipping, whatever it might be. But tracking calories should not be an all day, every day for the rest of your life kind of situation. Again, we're approaching this as a tool to help us gain more knowledge of caloric density, dietary weaknesses, so on and so forth, and with the intention that we become empowered to make change and make decisions. So the application I'll be using today is Cronometer. It is my preferred application for tracking calories outside of some of the ones that you pay for. Of course, this one does have a benefit to a paid membership, but Cronometer's barcode scanner is still free. It's not behind a paywall like it is on MyFitnessPal. But as a dietitian, the thing I really appreciate with Cronometer is the ability to track all of your vitamins and minerals. Again, these are the key players to life in our body, our physiology working at its optimal levels. And by, again, this idea, we can address or identify dietary weaknesses. A quick glance can very much allow you to see like, oh my gosh, I'm like constantly eating only like 50% of the calcium I need on a day-to-day basis. Maybe I should change that if I don't want to have osteoporosis. Or like, hey, my hemoglobin A1C has been going up and I see that I'm not only am I overeating carbohydrates, but maybe I'm not getting enough copper either, and that could be slowing down some glucose metabolism. That's getting a little bit more nuanced, but again, that is the kind of the point of this, is to help you identify maybe where you're missing some key minerals, key vitamins, so on and so forth. So again, Cronometer is free. They do have a paid subscription. It's got some benefits like being able to put certain foods on repeat and taking some deeper analysis into nutrition scores. So anyways, I have Cronometer pulled up here. This will be like the home page when you're logged in on the desktop or computer. Of course, the mobile version on an application will look different, but for user friendliness and just this video context, we will be using the web page style. So once you make an account, you want to come over here, look at this dashboard or this menu on the left-hand side. We're going to scroll down, and the section we're looking for is under More on the desktop version. So we want to go to our targets and profile. So this is where once you set your profile, you're going to, put your gender in, your birth date, your age, your height, estimated body fat percentage. These are just some values I made up for you. And then back to what we were talking about with your resting metabolic rate or your basal metabolic rate, they're often used interchangeably. This is where it used the Mifflin St. Jeor to calculate the estimated BMR, RMR here at 1682 or 1682 calories a day. Again, that's that base level of calories you need to survive if you were just doing nothing all day. And then they say, hey, how active are you? And for this intents, and purposes, we put moderately active. So moving frequently through the day, this could be construction work, stocking shelves, cleaning, or someone that does moderate exercise 3 to 5 days a week, estimating an additional like 841 calories needed. Again, now if you know your exact BMR, RMR, you can come in here and do custom and say like, hey, actually mine is 1918. I just had it measured yesterday. Okay, perfect. And now this will change as well. And then from there, it can give you a custom target or you can do a balanced target. It doesn't matter either way. For this video, I'm going to be doing my set target at 2100 calories. I anticipate that to give me a deficit of about 250 calories a day. And then as you scroll down further, this is where you start getting control over the macronutrient profile. Again, I have this clicked on fixed targets so I can set my exact range. As you see, I've got 35% protein, 33% net carbs, and 32% fat. So my total protein goal for the day is 185 grams of protein, total carbs of 171, and total fat at 75 grams. That literally puts me just 1 calorie under. Obviously, this isn't an exact science, but this is all due to estimation. So back to what we were talking about, the RMR and the macronutrients. You can use what's pre-populated if you're super unfamiliar with this and just see how you do as you start holding yourself accountable. And then as you maybe get a little bit more experienced or gain some better idea if you're gaining weight or losing weight, you can come back in and start manipulating these macronutrients. Some things I'd like to highlight though is you never want to undereat your RMR, your BMR. That's going to start giving some hormonal signaling to your body that you are starving. And if you exist in that realm for too long, you are going to create some metabolic derangements that are not good. We generally never advise anyone to eat below that value. However, there's definitely an exception for people that are doing some weight-dominated sports or intentionally trying to drastically lose a lot of weight. Some examples being people like wrestlers, MMA fighters, boxers, and bodybuilders or physique shows, things that you're really trying to get super, super lean. That's kind of the exception, but also we taper those guys back out of those extreme cuts in a controlled manner. And that can maybe be something we talk about in the future. So anyways, once we got these values, That's how we're going to know what our target is. So then we're going to come back up here to our diary, and this is where we're going to see total foods consumed. So foods consumed, we're estimating a total calorie burn of 2877. I will strongly encourage you just never ever put too much stock in this and be hyper focused on this value. What we're worried about is what our target is, this 2100, and what we've consumed. And then over here, you're going to see a bar graph as well where it goes energy, protein, net carbs, and fats. As you scroll down, this is where we're going to start seeing all these other values. So these are all of your vitamins, starting with B vitamins, going into some of the fat soluble vitamins towards the end here. All the minerals you can trace, various fats, various aspects of carbohydrates, proteins, their amino acids. So like I said, this does get pretty detailed. Okay, so getting into the good stuff of how do we streamline this process to track our food accordingly. So we've already talked about this idea that whenever we're going to kind of prep some food, we need to keep it simple, right? Embracing that acronym, keep it simple, stupid. So let's say we've chose one breakfast Monday through Friday, and then we're going to do this. We're going to have two different lunches for two different lunches for the week and two different dinners for the week. So we'll call them lunch 1 and lunch 2, dinner 1 and dinner 2. And then what we need to do now that we've cooked that food is we're going to create those recipes in our app or on Cronometer, so that all we have to do is go in and select the recipe versus choosing all the individual ingredients that are in said recipe. And definitely for the intention of this example, I'm going to make these super basic and easy to follow along with. So back over to Cronometer here, we're going to go down to foods and we're going to create custom recipe. So you can see I've already got a bunch of recipes pulled up here. Okay. So I've already made a lunch one and a dinner one. I think I've got a breakfast one. Okay. So I'm going to show you some other examples of how to do this. So we're going to click add recipe. We're going to say this one is lunch 2, right? And let's say, hey, you know what? We're making turkey meatloaf for lunch. And in that, we are going to be using 1.5 pounds of ground turkey. So we can say, hey, I went to Costco, got some ground turkey. It's 93.7. Oops, got a typo there. It's 93.7, so we're going to choose this. And how many ounces are we doing? Well, in this recipe, let's see. So this is where we look at all the servings and we see what options does it have for us. Large patties, cup, crumbles, large patty, cup, 231 grams, ounces. So 16. So we're going to say 24 ounces since we're doing 1.5 pounds goes into this recipe. You know what? Let's not do a bulk recipe. This is going to get a little hairy. Let's just say we already made the meatloaf and we're having 5 ounces of the ground turkey. Boom. And so you'll see it shows up here. How much? 5 units, ounces, estimated 300 calories, total weight's about 141 grams. And in addition to the ground turkey, maybe we had some steamed broccoli, right? So we can say, hey, we're having some broccoli that's steamed. Just broccoli, it's cooked from fresh. And are we doing 1 cup? We're going to weigh it out by grams. We'll just say we did 1 cup chopped for this duration. Although with vegetables, I do prefer to weigh them. So generally what I would suggest to do is just throw them on your scale and measure it out by grams. And we'll just say, hey, we did 150 grams of broccoli. We'll add that ingredient. And oh, by the way, we also had some pinto beans that we threw into the Instapot. Cooked from dried, yep. And we're definitely not having a whole cup, but maybe we have a half cup. So we're gonna go 0.5 cups or a half cup. And so that is lunch number 2. Before you click save, you can scroll down and look at total calories. So, hey, this lunch gives me 476 calories, 33 carbohydrates, nearly 50 grams of protein, and 17.5 grams of fat. If you scroll down farther, it'll give you a nice little pie chart down here, and you can re-examine all these different things. And again, if there's specific nutrients you're looking to get after, you can kind of take that deep dive here as well. So we're going to go save changes. Fantastic. We'll go back to recipe list. And hey, for dinner 2, dinner number 2, what should we have for dinner tonight, guys? So we say, hey, you know what? We're having some steak. few nights this week. We're spoiling ourselves. Beef, sirloin steak, no visible fat. Yeah, because we got a really good lean steak. And we're going to say, hey, we're having 5 ounces of steak for dinner as well. And then with this, we're going to have maybe some sweet potato, although I'm not a big fan of having a lot of carbohydrates at dinner time. But we can say, hey, we're having some sweet potato puff, sweet potato pie, sweet potato baked. We'll say it's baked. We'll say, hey, I'm doing 150 grams of some sweet potato baked. Again, as you're figuring out your macros, the next thing I would tell you is as you change your portions here, you can watch in real time how the values on the left side change. So you might say, oh shit, I don't have 30 carbs on this day. Maybe let's make this 100 and see what happens. Okay, 20, basically 21 grams. That actually helps me out. So I'm going to do that. Add ingredient. And then for these vegetables, we decided to cook up a whole bunch of green beans. So we'll cook from fresh, and we're having 150 grams of green beans. Boom. And we could say, hey, that's our dinner. We're calling it good. We went down, we reviewed the facts, said, hey, you know what? This is actually like really lean. Maybe I'm going to put a half tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil on these green beans each night. So extra virgin olive oil. And of course, you can just scan whatever jar it's coming out of if you don't know, but I'm just going to randomly pick one. It's a whole tablespoon. We're going to say, let's do a half tablespoon. Okay, boom. Excellent. That got me up to the 400 range, which for whatever reason I decided that's what I wanted. So we're going to go to save changes. Back to recipes. So we've got dinner 2, lunch 2, dinner 1, lunch 1, and a breakfast recipe. So now this is where I'm going to show you the efficiency part. So we're not having to log these foods each time. So I can go to breakfast. I'm going to add my food. We're going to go to custom recipes. We're just going to type in that name. Say breakfast. And what I would say is while you're logging these foods, once you have all of your recipes in, log all your food the night before you go to bed. Take the time, the 10 minutes, whatever it takes, to decide, hey, tomorrow I'm having breakfast, I'm having lunch 1 and dinner 1, and then you can fill in some gaps with your snacks. And that's what this is going to look like. So we're going to go breakfast 1. Yep, we're having that. And then we're having lunch 1. You know, maybe you've got breakfast 2, lunch 2, I don't know. Lunch 2, dinner 1. Okay, boom. So this is just with my main meals. I know that I have about 900 calories to go, a decent amount of protein, and I have the most room to make on my fat. So I've already made some snacks that I'm going to use for demonstration purposes, but we'll come down to snacks, and we're going to add some snacks. I'm going to have this blueberry madness, which is basically Greek yogurt and frozen blueberries. I'm going to throw that in there. Okay, that got me a little bit further. And you know what? After breakfast, I'm going to have a protein shake and a piece of fruit. Here we go. I don't know what that recipe is that I just chose because it seems a little bit high, but whatever. We're going to roll with it for this video. So we can start looking. I'm like, okay, I'm still having a pretty big gap in fat and carbohydrates. So I'm going to slide back through here. And what else can I do? I have some other snacks made. I'm pretty low on carbs and fats, so I'm going to do my kiwi mango pudding. Add that to my diary. Bam. I would say right now, you are in a good spot that you don't need to force food anymore, okay? As you look at our graph here, you can see that we are within a 5% margin. So it's very important to note you're never going to be perfect with your macronutrients. You're going to always be under and over on some things. Of course, as you get more efficient, you will become better at kind of perfecting that, if you will. But really the goal is in this instance that we want to be within about a 5% margin of total calories, but also our macronutrients. So some days you're going to go over on stuff like we went over on the carbohydrates here, and that's okay. The weekly averages are truly what matter. And so we can say, hey, I'm happy with this day, and we'll hypothetically call this Monday. So if you're going to do this exact same thing, you're happy with it, you can just literally click the day. So we're going to right click the day, and you can say copy to today. Sure, we're going to copy. Okay. And then we're going to say that this is Wednesday. We can go paste. Exact same food. Oh, we didn't get all of it. Wah, wah, wah. We'll delete this and try it again. So let's go back. We should be able to. Here we go. Marked it copy current day. And then we'll go over here and we should be able to paste. And now we have the exact same day. Perfect. So this is Wednesday. So let's say Thursday, Friday. We're going to do it again. Paste. Okay. And then we'll go back. So this was our Monday. So we're going to go back. So we'll call this our Tuesday now. So basically we're going to repeat this process. So we're going to say breakfast. We're going to choose whatever this one is, this breakfast bowl. We're going to add that one in. Okay, perfect. And then now we're going to have our lunch 2 because that's what we made. Lunch 2. Perfect. And then we have our dinner 2. And again, as you get more skilled, you add more recipes, but for simplicity, we keep it kind of simple up front. And so we're going to add some snacks here. So we'll add some food. Hey, we're going to have an apple snack. And then maybe we're going to have some celery, carrot, and hummus. Okay. And you know what? Lastly, we're just going to do maybe some cottage cheese. Where'd that cottage cheese snack go that I just saw? Cottage cheese and raspberries. Sure. We'll look at this and say, hey, we're almost perfect on our calories. We're really low on the protein and we're going quite a bit over fat. So we could back out and say, what do I want to change? You know what? I'm going to replace this apple snack because I don't like how that's doing me. And instead, I'm just going to have another protein snack. And so we're going to add that here. And now we're over on calories, pretty much perfect on carbs, still over on fat, and a little bit under on protein. And now you can see where you can start mixing and matching some things and saying, hey, like, I don't know what I need to fix. Maybe I should get rid of this carrot and hummus. See where we're at. Okay, now we're like almost perfect. 99%, still a little bit low on protein, but everything else is pretty good. Hey, you know what? I'm really happy with this day. I'm going to see how it works out for me. So we're going to come back up here. We're going to copy current day, and then we're going to slide over to our hypothetical Thursday here. We're going to paste, and it repeats. And this is our Friday. Here's our hypothetical Saturday. If you wanted to repeat this on Saturday, we could just do this again, paste, and now let's say this is our hypothetical Sunday. So I'm going to use some foods that you didn't watch me create just to make this simple. So we're going to go to breakfast, and for breakfast this time, we're going to do a Power AM smoothie. We're going to save that. And then our lunch, you know what? We had this honey glazed salmon with roasted broccoli. It was really good. And then at dinner time, we're going to have this cranberry kale salad that I love so much. Cranberry kale salad with some chicken. So we're going to add that. I'm like, oh man, we got most all of our calories. And you know what? We're just going to have another, whatever this whey protein shake is. And I've still got a little bit of room. I'm actually over my protein now, but we've got basically 60 calories. And so this is where it's like, hey, do I actually need to worry about the 60 calories? Do I not need to worry about the 60 calories? Who knows? Maybe I'm just going to have this cottage cheese and raspberries and see how it does for me. This stupid little ad. We'll add it here. Okay. I'm like, perfect. I'm very happy with this. Fantastic. I feel good. So let's say you've completed the week here. We're going to scroll all the way over now to trends. We're going to hit trends. We're going to go to our nutrition report. And this is where you can see what is your weekly average. So this is for the last 7 days. So on this calendar, I worked a little bit backwards from old days. But you're going to see our total average over here. Let's scroll up for you. Energy is 2,048 calories intake per day. Basically just under the protein at 179 grams. Carbs was a little bit high at 191, and fat was just a little bit low at 69.5. So overall, we were within that 5% margin. If you had pretty good energy levels, I would imagine at this point you've probably already lost a half pound of fat. If you wanted to get a little bit crazier, you can scroll down again, and now we can start paying attention to a lot of these vitamins and minerals. So we got all the fiber we needed every day. We got all the iron, all the calcium, all the vitamin A, vitamin C, B12, folate, potassium, so on and so forth. And then you can just keep sliding down and looking through all of these things and really just assessing, did you have anything that totally stood out that you need to address? Don't worry about sodium. Obviously, hopefully you're salting your food. You can come back up here and be like, hey, vitamin D and E are pretty low. Well, I didn't eat a lot of leafy greens this week, and vitamin D is not really that bioavailable anyways. Maybe I should work in some more salmon. That's kind of a bit basically what that tells you. So, guys, in a nutshell, that is how you want to streamline this process. I know that was a little bit of a lengthy video to watch, but essentially that's what you need to do is take, like I said, 15, 20 minutes, program in all of your recipes, find the ingredients, portion it out appropriately, and then you start plugging and playing around again with these ratios of, hey, maybe instead of 6 ounces of turkey, I need to do 4 ounces, or maybe instead of 200 grams of potato, I can do 150 grams of potato, so on and so forth, right? It's whatever works, but it just takes a little bit of manipulation. And as time goes on, you start gaining more understanding, like I said, of that caloric value of foods, but also what do those portions look like on a plate? How does this line up for the rest of the day? And it starts becoming second nature to just kind of have a general idea of what your needs are. So it's important to understand that these applications that we use for tracking calories are imperfect. They are a wonderful technology, but there's a million different nuances with tracking calories in general, what a calorie even is. It's not necessarily even relevant to us, but we use it anyways. And without getting into the nuance and fluster of that, just understand that these apps are imperfect. The data is input by humans, and you are bound to encounter some mistakes or errors, and I'm going to do my very best to highlight some of the common ones. Number one thing, whenever you're scanning an app, whenever you're using the app to scan some food, always compare the nutrition label to what's actually popping up briefly. Okay, so the 4 things you want to look at: calories, the protein, the fat, and the carbs, or your macronutrients, and then also the serving size that it automatically populates. Sometimes the food will populate a serving size that is irrelevant to what you're actually scanning, and you've either got to crunch some hard numbers in your head or just elect to not choose that one and make your own food, which is typically what I suggest doing. Sometimes you're going to see things with the calories are correct, but the macronutrients are not in proper order. Like maybe the calories match, but the one says it's got 5 more grams of protein than what's actually on the box, or whatever it is. And so if you find some errors like this, generally what I suggest, if it's a product you'll be using frequently, just make a new food product. Another thing to be aware of is sometimes when you scan a barcode, there'll be like 3 different items that show up, and they're probably all the same item. What's happened is other people have made a new food because they spotted an error. And so this is a little annoying and frustrating sometimes, but you might have to go through each one to figure out which one is correct, if at all. Sometimes it's the first one, you're like, hey, this is all great. I don't know what's going on with these other ones, but I'm not even going to look at it. The third thing I will highlight for you, again, comes back to that serving size. Just always be mindful anytime you're logging food or choosing ingredients, pay special attention to what that serving size is. Sometimes things always automatically come up as a whole piece of fruit. Sometimes things automatically populate as 100 grams. Sometimes things will automatically populate as a half cup. Depending on how you're cooking food or measuring it out will dictate on what kind of range you want to set. You'll find some items that are, 1 regular cup, 1 cup chopped, grams, ounces, a half cup, a quarter cup, a tablespoon. And that's great. You just figure out what works for you. But again, just understand that there are some common errors. It's not unexpected, but if you just do a little bit of planning ahead of time, it won't throw a monkey wrench in your life because you've already done the backwards planning to execute, and you're just solving an error before it becomes an issue. To wrap things up, just again remember that tracking calories is not a permanent way of life. It is a tool used to help you bridge that gap between nutrition and the food that's on your plate so that you can gain a better understanding. With some attention to detail, smart use of technology, and a little bit of backwards planning, you can eliminate virtually all the stress and time consumption around this process. And as you become more fluent in tracking calories and you are present in understanding the caloric density of food that's on your plate, over time, then you'll be able to transition to more mindful eating and worrying less about the calories. Okay, again, remembering that this is designed to be a tool, not a permanent way of life. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please, give it a thumbs up, like it, what have you, subscribe to the channel. And please, if you are enjoying the content we're putting out, I love comments, I love feedback. Please give us a follow. And if you're looking for any more resources, help, education, or guidance towards crushing your health and fitness goals, please check us out at thevhq.com. Much love, guys, and see you next time.